The fluorescent lights hummed softly as David pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway. His back ached a little, but he'd gotten used to it over the years. 3 years of working the night shift at Thompson Corporate Tower, and he knew every corner of this place like the back of his hand. It was almost 9:30, and the building was quiet. That's what David liked about working nights. No crowds, no rush, just him and his work. He could think clearly, and more importantly, he could finish in time to get home before his daughter Amy woke up for school. Being a single dad wasn't easy. When his wife died 4 years ago, David's whole world turned upside down. Amy was only 12 then, too young to lose her mother. They'd struggled together, cried together, and slowly learned how to be a family of 2. The night shift paid a bit more, and his sister Linda helped watch Amy while he worked. It wasn't perfect, but they made it work. David was wiping down the glass doors near the executive offices when he heard something that made him stop. It was faint at first, but unmistakable. Someone was crying. He paused, tilting his head to listen. The executive floor was supposed to be empty by now. Everyone went home hours ago. But the sound was real, soft sobs coming from somewhere nearby. Following the sound, David walked past the CEO's office and found a small waiting area with leather couches and fancy plants. And there, curled up in the corner of a couch, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her pink dress looked expensive, the kind you see in store windows with price tags that make you wince. But right now it was wrinkled and creased. Her dark hair was messy, and tears rolled down her cheeks as she clutched a worn stuffed bunny to her chest. David's heart immediately went out to her. He'd seen that look before, on Amy's face during those first terrible months after losing her mom. "Hey there," David said softly, kneeling down so he wouldn't tower over her. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" The little girl looked up, startled. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. She hugged her bunny tighter but didn't say anything. "It's all right," David continued gently. "I'm David. I work here cleaning the building. What's your name?" The girl sniffled. "Lily," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name," David said with a warm smile. "Lily, where are your mom and dad? Do they know you're here?" Fresh tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. "Daddy's in his office. He's been in there for hours. He said he'd just be a minute, but that was a long time ago." Her voice cracked. "Mommy was supposed to pick me up after Daddy's meeting, but she never came. Nobody came." David felt a knot form in his stomach. He glanced at his watch. 9:30 at night, and this child had been waiting alone, probably for hours. "Have you had dinner?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "Are you hungry?" She nodded slowly. David sat down on the couch, keeping a respectful distance. "Well, I can't let you go hungry. I've got my dinner in my cart. It's not fancy or anything, just a sandwich and an apple. And I think I have some crackers, too. Would you like some?" For the first time, Lily's expression changed slightly. She wasn't smiling, but the look of complete despair lifted just a bit. "Okay," she said quietly. David went to his cart and brought back his lunchbox. He handed her the apple already washed and ready to eat and half of his turkey sandwich. Lily ate slowly at first, then more eagerly. She must have been really hungry. While she ate, David stayed nearby, not saying much, just being there. He'd learned with Amy that sometimes kids just needed someone present, someone who wasn't rushing off to the next thing. "Is your daddy Mr. Chen?" David asked after a few minutes. He'd seen the name on the office door. "Robert Chen, CEO." Lily nodded, her mouth full of sandwich. David had cleaned Mr. Chen's office many times. Huge desk, floor-to-ceiling windows, photos of Lily on the bookshelf. He seemed like a busy man. The office was always cluttered with papers and files, coffee cups from long days. David had never actually met him face to face. "How about we go find your daddy?" David suggested. "He's probably wondering where you are." Lily's face fell. "He won't care. He never notices when I'm there or not there." Those words hit David hard. He thought about Amy, about how he always made sure to have breakfast with her before she left for school, even though he'd just gotten off work. How he called her during his break every night just to say goodnight. Time with your kids, that was the thing that mattered. "I bet he'll notice," David said gently. "Come on, let's go see." They walked down the hallway together, Lily's small hand in his. She was so tiny, so fragile. When they reached the CEO's office, David could see the light on under the door. He knocked softly. "Come in," a distracted voice called out. David opened the door. Robert Chen sat behind his massive desk, Phone pressed to his ear, laptop open, papers everywhere. He was younger than David expected, maybe early 40s, with tired eyes and loosened tie. Mr. Chen glanced up, held up one finger in a just-a-minute gesture, and continued his phone conversation about quarterly reports and market projections. Lily's shoulders slumped. She didn't even try to go to her father. She just stood there, invisible. David felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. He knew better than to judge. Everyone had their struggles. But still, this little girl needed her father. They stood there for nearly 5 minutes while Mr. Chen finished his call. When he finally hung up, he looked at them with confusion. "Who are you?" he asked David. "David Williams, sir. I'm part of the night cleaning crew. I found Lily in the waiting area. She's been alone for quite a while." Mr. Chen's face shifted through several emotions: surprise, guilt, frustration. He looked at his daughter as if seeing her for the first time that evening. "Lily, sweetheart, what are you still doing here? Didn't your mother pick you up?" Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "She didn't come." Mr. Chen ran his hand through his hair, stress clear on his face. He grabbed his phone and dialed. David heard a woman's voice on the other end but couldn't make out the words. The conversation was brief and tense. "She forgot," Mr. Chen said, more to himself than to them. "She forgot." He looked at David. "Thank you for finding her. I apologize for this situation." "No problem, sir," David said. "Maybe Lily could wait in here with you until you're done. She's had a rough evening." Mr. Chen nodded absently. Yes. Lily, sit on the couch there. Daddy has one more call to make, then we'll go home." Lily walked to the leather couch in the corner of the office and sat down, small and quiet. David noticed she still clutched her bunny. "Is there anything else?" Mr. Chen asked, already reaching for his phone again. David wanted to say so much. He wanted to tell this man that his daughter needed him, that work would always be there, but childhood was fleeting. But it wasn't his place. He was just the janitor. "No, sir. Have a good night." As David left the office, he looked back one more time. Lily sat alone on that couch, her father already absorbed in his next call. The little girl caught his eye and gave him a small, sad wave. David waved back and closed the door softly. Walking back to his cart, he thought about Amy waiting at home, probably already asleep. He thought about how lucky he was that despite everything they'd lost, they still had each other. They still had time together. That night, as David cleaned the rest of the floor, he couldn't get Lily out of his mind. Something about that little girl's loneliness struck deep. He'd seen kids go through hard things. He'd lived through hard things with his own daughter. But there was something particularly heartbreaking about being lonely in a room full of people who were supposed to love you. Before he left that night, David made a decision. If he ever saw Lily here again alone and waiting, he'd make sure she knew someone cared. Even if that someone was just the night janitor. Sometimes that's all a kid needs. Just someone who shows up. 2 weeks passed before David saw Lily again. It was a Thursday night around the same time as before. David was emptying trash bins near the conference rooms when he spotted her. Same leather couch, same stuffed bunny, but this time she wasn't crying. She was just sitting there, staring at nothing, her legs dangling off the edge of the seat. "Lily?" David said, surprised to see her. Her face lit up immediately. "David, you remember me?" "Of course I remember you," David said, walking over. "What are you doing here so late again?" Lily's smile faded a bit. Daddy had another important meeting. Mommy was supposed to come, but... She shrugged, like she'd already accepted this was just how things were. David felt that familiar tug in his chest. He glanced toward Mr. Chen's office. The lights were on and he could hear muffled voices through the door. "Have you eaten?" David asked. Lily shook her head. David sighed. He went to his cart and pulled out his dinner. Tonight it was leftover pasta his sister Linda had made. He'd packed extra fruit, too. He handed Lily the container of grapes and some crackers. "Thank you," Lily said softly, taking them. David sat down in the chair across from her. "So does this happen a lot? You waiting here?" Lily nodded while chewing a grape. 3 times this week. Usually somebody from Daddy's office gives me snacks, but everyone went home already. 3 times this week." David's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a pattern. "What about school? Don't you have homework or anything?" Lily perked up a little. "I do. Wait here." She jumped off the couch and ran to a backpack David hadn't noticed before. She pulled out a worksheet covered in math problems. "My teacher says I'm really good at math," Lily said proudly. But I don't understand this one problem. It's about fractions. David looked at the worksheet. 5th grade math. He remembered helping Amy through these same problems years ago. All right, let's take a look, David said, pulling his chair closer. For the next 15 minutes, they worked through the fraction problems together. David explained it in simple terms, using the grapes as examples. See, if you have 12 grapes and you eat 1/4 of them, how many did you eat? Lily counted carefully. 3. Exactly. You're smart, kid. Lily beamed at the praise. It made David wonder when the last time someone had sat with her like this, helping her with homework, making her feel capable. When his break time was up, David stood to go. I've got to get back to work, but you did great on that homework. Will you be here next time? Lily asked, hope in her eyes. David paused. He shouldn't make promises. This wasn't his responsibility. But looking at this little girl, so hungry for attention, so grateful for 15 minutes of someone's time, he couldn't help himself. If you're here, I'll come say hi on my break. Deal? Deal, Lily said, smiling wider than before. Over the next 3 weeks, it became their routine. Every time David worked and Lily was there waiting, he'd spend his break with her. Sometimes they did homework. Sometimes he taught her simple things like how to fold paper airplanes or make origami cranes. His daughter Amy had loved origami when she was younger, and he still remembered the basics. Lily's eyes would light up every time she successfully folded a crane. Look, David, I did it. You're a natural, he'd say, and she'd glow with pride. One evening, while they were folding paper, Lily asked him, David, do you have kids? I do, David said, carefully creasing a piece of blue paper. A daughter. Her name is Amy. She's 16 now. Does she like origami too? She used to love it. Now she's more into her books and studying. She wants to be a teacher someday. Lily was quiet for a moment. Do you get to see her a lot? Every day, David said. I work nights so I can be home when she wakes up for school. We have breakfast together every morning before she leaves. That sounds nice, Lily whispered. She focused hard on her paper crane, but David could see her eyes getting watery. Hey, David said gently. You okay? Lily sniffled. I don't remember the last time I had breakfast with my daddy, or dinner. He's always working. And Mommy. She trailed off, looking down at her hands. What about Mommy? David asked carefully. She's always sad. She stays in bed a lot. Sometimes she doesn't even come downstairs all day. The nanny makes my meals and drives me to school. Lily's voice got smaller. I think Mommy doesn't like being my mommy anymore. David's heart broke. He wanted to pull this child into a hug, but he knew he had to be careful about boundaries. Instead, he moved his chair a bit closer. Listen to me, Lily. Your mommy loves you. I'm sure of that. Sometimes grown-ups go through really hard times, and when they do, they kind of forget how to show love the right way. But that doesn't mean the love isn't there. Really? Lily looked up at him with hopeful eyes. Really, David said firmly. When my wife died, I was so sad that for a while, I almost forgot how to be a good dad. I was there, but I wasn't really there, you know? But Amy needed me, and that helped me find my way back. Your parents are probably going through something hard too. Lily thought about this. Is that why you're so nice to me? Because you remember being sad? David smiled softly. I'm nice to you because you're a great kid who deserves to be seen, and because I hope if Amy ever needed someone, a kind person would be there for her too. I wish you were my dad, Lily said suddenly, then looked embarrassed. Sorry, that's a weird thing to say. It's not weird, David assured her. It just means you're missing something important right now, and that's okay to feel. From that night on, their bond grew stronger. David started bringing small things from the dollar store, a new coloring book, a pack of markers, a puzzle book. Nothing expensive, but things he knew would make Lily smile. She'd greet him each time like he was the best part of her day. And honestly, seeing her face light up had become the best part of his days too. One night, Lily showed him a drawing she'd made. It was a picture of two people sitting on a couch, One tall and one small with paper cranes floating around them. "That's us," she said proudly. "You and me." David felt a lump form in his throat. "Can I keep this?" "Really? You want it?" "I'd be honored," David said. Lily carefully handed him the drawing, and he folded it gently, tucking it into his pocket. That same night, as David walked Lily to her father's office like he always did, they passed by the glass walls of a conference room. David noticed a woman standing in the shadows near the elevator bank. She was well-dressed, with dark hair pulled back, and she seemed to be watching them. When David looked directly at her, she turned away quickly and disappeared around the corner. Something about it felt odd, but David shrugged it off. Probably just another executive working late. Inside Mr. Chen's office, the CEO barely looked up when they entered. He was on his laptop, typing furiously. "Lily's here, sir," David said. "Just a few more minutes, sweetheart," Mr. Chen said, not even making eye contact with his daughter. Lily sat on her usual spot on the couch, resignation on her face. She pulled out a book and started reading. David hesitated at the door. "Mr. Chen, if I may say something?" The CEO looked up, surprised. "Yes?" "Your daughter is really special. She's smart and kind. I just thought you should know that." Mr. Chen's expression softened for just a moment. "Thank you. I know she is." But even as he said it, he was already looking back at his screen. As David left the office, he glanced back one more time. Lily gave him a small wave, and he waved back. Walking back to his cart, David couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. He didn't know what, but there was a shift in the air. Maybe it was the mysterious woman he'd seen watching them. Maybe it was the way Lily's loneliness seemed to be growing heavier each night. Whatever it was, David knew that his small acts of kindness mattered to this little girl. And for now, that would have to be enough. Even if he was just the janitor, even if he was just filling the gaps that others had left, he was making a difference in one child's life. And sometimes, that's all any of us can do. The woman in the shadows was Victoria Chen, and she was drowning. Not in water, but in something worse. Depression had wrapped around her like chains for the past 2 years, pulling her under until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't be the mother she desperately wanted to be. Victoria used to be someone, a successful architect with her own firm, designing buildings that made people stop and stare. But somewhere along the way, she'd lost herself. Her husband climbed higher and higher in his career while she fell further and further into darkness. The mansion they lived in felt like a prison. The marriage felt like a business arrangement. And worst of all, she'd pulled away from Lily. The guilt ate at her every single day. What kind of mother abandons her own child? What kind of mother stays in bed while nannies raise her daughter? But the depression made everything feel impossible. Getting up felt impossible. Smiling felt impossible. Being present felt impossible. 3 months ago, Victoria finally started therapy. It was Robert who insisted, though not out of love. He was worried about appearances, about what people might think. But Victoria didn't care why it happened. She just knew she needed help. Slowly, painfully, she was finding small pieces of herself again. And with those pieces came the crushing realization of everything she'd missed. Lily's school plays, parent-teacher conferences, bedtime stories, birthday parties. Years of her daughter's life gone, wasted while Victoria stared at bedroom walls. Last week, her therapist gave her homework. Do one thing that scares you. One thing that requires you to show up. Victoria decided she would pick up Lily from Robert's office herself. No nanny, no driver, just her being a mother even if she had no idea how to do it anymore. That's how she ended up at Thompson Corporate Tower on Thursday evening, heart pounding, hands shaking. She rode the elevator to the executive floor, practicing what she'd say. "Hi, sweetie. Mommy's here to take you home." Simple words that felt like climbing a mountain. But when the elevator doors opened, Victoria froze. Through the glass walls, she could see Lily, her daughter, her baby girl, sitting on a couch with a man in a janitorial uniform. They were laughing together, bent over pieces of colored paper, their heads close together in concentration. Victoria's first instinct was panic. Who was this man? Why was he with her daughter? But as she watched, really watched, her panic shifted to something else entirely. The man showed Lily how to fold the paper, his movements patient and gentle. When Lily got it wrong, he didn't get frustrated. He just smiled and helped her try again. And when she finally got it right, folding a paper crane successfully, Lily's face exploded with pure joy. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. When was the last time she'd seen Lily smile like that? When was the last time she'd been the one to put that smile on her daughter's face? She couldn't make herself move. She stood there, hidden partially behind a column, and just watched. "David, look, I made 3 cranes tonight." Lily's voice carried through the quiet hallway. "You're getting really good at this, kiddo," the janitor David replied warmly. "Pretty soon you'll be teaching me," Lily giggled. It was such a simple sound, but to Victoria it was everything. Her daughter's laugh. When had she last heard it? "Can I tell you something?" Lily asked, her voice getting softer. "Of course. You can tell me anything." "You're my best friend," Lily said. "Is that weird? That a kid's best friend is a grown-up?" Victoria watched David's face change. He looked touched, maybe a little sad. "It's not weird at all," he said gently. "I'm honored to be your friend, Lily, but you know what? You deserve to have lots of friends, kids your age and grown-ups who love you." "I have friends at school," Lily said, "but I can't talk to them about real stuff. They don't understand why my mommy doesn't come to school events or why my daddy is never home." Victoria felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. She pressed her back against the wall, tears streaming down her face. "Your parents are going through something hard right now," David was saying, "but that doesn't mean they don't love you. Sometimes people get lost, even good people, especially good people." "Do you really think my mommy still loves me?" Lily's voice was so small, so fragile. "Sometimes I think maybe she looks at me and just feels sad because I remind her of when she was happy." Victoria slid down the wall, sitting on the floor, sobbing as quietly as she could. Is that what Lily thought? That she was a reminder of better times instead of the best thing that had ever happened to Victoria? "Listen to me," David said firmly. "I've never met your mother, but I know this. You are not the cause of anyone's sadness. You are a light, Lily. You're smart and kind and creative. Any parent would be lucky to have you." "Then why does she hide from me?" Lily asked, and Victoria could hear the tears in her daughter's voice now. "I don't know," David admitted. "But I do know that sometimes when people are in pain, they hide because they don't want to spread that pain to the people they love. It's not right, but it's what happens. Your mom might be hiding because she loves you, not because she doesn't." Victoria covered her mouth with both hands, trying not to make a sound. This stranger, this janitor she'd never met, understood her better than her own husband did. He was showing her daughter more compassion in 15-minute breaks than Victoria had shown her in 2 years. She watched as David checked his watch. "All right, my break's over. Let's get you to your dad's office." "Okay," Lily said, gathering up her paper cranes carefully. "David, thank you for always coming to see me. You always keep your promises." "That's what friends do," David said. "They show up, they show up." 2 simple words that cut Victoria to her core. She hadn't shown up. Not for Lily's soccer games, not for her school presentations, not for any of the moments that mattered. She'd been physically present in the same house, but she might as well have been on another planet. Victoria stayed hidden as David and Lily walked past, heading toward Robert's office. When they were gone, she finally allowed herself to cry properly, shoulders shaking, makeup running, not caring who might see her. She'd come here tonight planning to take one small step toward being a mother again. Instead, she'd discovered that a stranger was doing her job better than she ever had, and that knowledge should have made her angry or jealous, but it didn't. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. This man, David, whoever he was, had been there for Lily when no one else was. He'd shown her kindness when her own parents had failed her. Victoria pulled herself together and wiped her face. She couldn't walk into Robert's office like this, not yet. She wasn't ready for Lily to see her like this, broken and crying. But she came back the next week and the week after that. Each time she watched from the shadows. She saw David helping Lily with homework, making her laugh, teaching her things. She saw her daughter come alive in ways she never did at home. And each time Victoria's heart broke a little more but also began to heal. She started taking notes in her therapy sessions. There's a man who works in my husband's building. He's been kind to my daughter. Watching them together makes me realize how much I've missed, how much I've failed her. Her therapist asked, "Does watching them make you want to give up, or does it make you want to try?" Victoria thought about that question for a long time. And finally she answered, "It makes me want to try. If a stranger can show up for my daughter, then I should be able to do it too. I'm her mother." "Then that's your next step," her therapist said. "Don't compare yourself to him. Just take one step toward showing up." On the 4th week of watching from the shadows, Victoria made a decision. Tonight she wouldn't just watch. Tonight she would let herself be seen. She waited until David and Lily were in their usual spot, working on what looked like a drawing together. She waited until she heard Lily's laugh, that beautiful sound that gave her courage. Then Victoria stepped out of the shadows. She walked slowly toward them, her heels clicking on the marble floor. David looked up first, recognition flickering in his eyes. He'd seen her before, watching from a distance, but it was Lily's reaction that mattered. Her daughter's eyes went wide. "Mommy?" The word hung in the air between them. Mommy. A title Victoria had abandoned, a role she'd failed at, a relationship she'd broken. Victoria's carefully prepared words disappeared. All she could manage was, "Hi, baby." Lily stood up slowly, uncertain, like she was seeing a ghost. And Victoria, for the first time in 2 years, opened her arms. "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered, tears already falling. "I'm so sorry." For a moment, nothing happened. Lily just stood there looking at her mother like she didn't know whether to run toward her or away from her. Then slowly, Lily took a step forward. Then another. Then she was running, and Victoria dropped to her knees just in time to catch her daughter in her arms. They held each other on the floor of that executive hallway, both crying, both broken, both hoping, and David, quietly and respectfully, stepped back to give them space. Sometimes the first step toward healing is the hardest one. Sometimes it takes watching a stranger love your child to remember how to love them yourself. For Victoria, this was that moment, the moment everything changed. David didn't know what to do with his hands. He stood there a few feet away from the mother and daughter embracing on the floor, feeling like he was intruding on something sacred. Part of him wanted to slip away quietly, let them have this moment. But another part of him worried about leaving Lily, even with her own mother. Victoria held Lily like she was afraid to let go, rocking slightly, whispering apologies over and over. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Mommy's been sick, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying so hard." Lily's small arms wrapped around her mother's neck. "I missed you, Mommy. I missed you so much." "I missed you too," Victoria sobbed. "Every single day. Even when I couldn't show it, I missed you." David took a small step back, and the movement caught Victoria's attention. She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears and mascara, and something in her expression stopped him. "Please don't go," Victoria said, her voice rough. "I need to talk to you." David hesitated. "Ma'am, I should probably let you two have some time together." "No," Victoria said firmly. She gently pulled back from Lily, cupping her daughter's face in her hands. "Lily, sweetheart, can you give Mommy and David a minute to talk?" "You can wait right there on the couch. I'm not going anywhere. I promise." Lily looked between her mother and David, uncertain, but something in Victoria's eyes must have reassured her because she nodded and went to sit on the couch, clutching her stuffed bunny. Victoria stood up slowly, wiping her face with shaking hands. She turned to face David fully. "I've been watching you," she said quietly. "For weeks now. I've seen you with my daughter." David's stomach dropped. Had he done something wrong? Was she angry? "Ma'am, I can explain." "Please," Victoria interrupted, holding up a hand. "Let me finish." She took a deep breath. "I've been struggling with depression for 2 years. Bad depression. The kind that makes you feel like you're drowning even though you're standing on dry land. I stopped being a mother to Lily. I stopped being a wife. I stopped being myself." David listened, saying nothing. 3 months ago I started therapy, and last month my therapist told me I needed to show up for my daughter. Actually show up, not just exist in the same house. Victoria's voice cracked. "So I came here to pick up Lily, to take her home myself. And instead, I found her with you." "I never meant to overstep," David started, but Victoria shook her head. You didn't overstep. You did what I should have been doing all along. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I watched you help her with homework. I watched you make her laugh. I watched you teach her origami and tell her stories. I watched you treat my daughter with more kindness and attention than I've given her in 2 years. David felt his own eyes getting wet. She's a special kid. I know she is, Victoria whispered. And I've been the worst mother in the world. I let my pain consume me so much that I forgot she was in pain too. She needed me and I wasn't there. But you're here now, David said gently. Because of you, Victoria said, her voice stronger now. Watching you with Lily reminded me of what love looks like. Real love. The kind that shows up even when it's inconvenient. The kind that notices when someone's hurting. You're a janitor working a night shift and you took time out of your breaks to care for a child who wasn't yours. You didn't have to do that. I know what it's like to be alone, David said simply. I lost my wife 4 years ago. For a while after that, I wasn't much of a father either. I was there physically, but I was checked out. My daughter needed me to come back, and eventually I did. When I saw Lily here, alone and scared, I just thought about what I'd want someone to do for my daughter if she needed help. Victoria pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to control her emotions. What's your daughter's name? Amy, she's 16. Is she a good kid? The best, David said, a proud smile crossing his face. She wants to be a teacher. She's smart, kind, responsible. She's everything good that her mother was. Victoria nodded slowly. You raised her right. You showed up for her, even after losing your wife. That's what good parents do. Good parents make mistakes too, David said. They get lost sometimes. What matters is finding your way back. They stood in silence for a moment. Two parents from completely different worlds, connected by their love for their children. Thank you, Victoria finally said. Thank you for being there when I wasn't. Thank you for showing my daughter what kindness looks like. Thank you for not giving up on her. I could never give up on Lily, David said, glancing at the little girl on the couch. She was watching them with wide, curious eyes. She's got the biggest heart of any kid I've ever met. Victoria followed his gaze. I want to be better. I need to be better. She deserves a mother who actually mothers. Then start tonight, David said. Take her home. Have dinner with her. Ask her about her day. Read her a bedtime story. Small steps. That's how you start. What if I mess it up? Victoria asked, fear clear in her voice. What if I'm too broken to be a good mom anymore? You're not too broken, David said firmly. You're here, aren't you? You showed up tonight. That's not nothing. That's everything. Victoria took a shaky breath. Will you still be here? If Lily needs you? David thought about that. I think what Lily needs most now is her mother. But yeah, I'll be around. I work this shift 4 nights a week. If she ever needs a friend, I'm here. Thank you, Victoria said again. She turned to walk toward Lily, then stopped. What's your last name? Williams. David Williams. Victoria nodded like she was committing it to memory. My husband needs to know about this. About what you've done for our daughter. For our family, really. You've done more for us than you realize. I was just doing what felt right, David said. That's exactly why it matters, Victoria replied. She walked over to Lily and sat down beside her on the couch. Sweetheart, let's go home. Just you and me. We'll stop and get ice cream on the way. And when we get home, I want you to tell me everything about your day. Every single thing. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Just us? Just us, Victoria confirmed. We have a lot of time to make up for. Lily jumped up excitedly, then paused. She ran over to David and hugged him around the waist. Thank you for being my friend. David hugged her back. Anytime, kiddo. You take care of yourself, okay? Okay, Lily said. She pulled back and smiled up at him. Will I see you again? I'm sure you will, David said. But right now you've got someone more important to spend time with. He nodded toward Victoria. Lily looked at her mother, and something shifted in her expression. Hope. Real hope. Victoria reached out her hand and Lily took it. They walked toward the elevator together, Lily chattering excitedly about ice cream flavors while Victoria listened with full attention, asking questions, engaged in a way she hadn't been in years. Just before they got on the elevator, Victoria looked back at David. She mouthed 2 words. Thank you. David nodded, and they were gone. He stood alone in the hallway for a moment, processing everything that had just happened. His simple acts of kindness, his 15-minute break spent with a lonely child. had somehow helped bring a family back together. David went back to his cleaning cart and pulled out the drawing Lily had made weeks ago. The picture of them sitting together with paper cranes floating around them. He looked at it for a long moment, then carefully folded it and put it back in his pocket. Sometimes you don't realize the impact you're having. Sometimes you just do small, kind things because they feel right, never knowing that those small things might change someone's entire world. David finished his shift that night with a lighter heart than he'd had in a long time. But the story wasn't over yet. Not even close. 3 days later, David received a message from building management. Mr. Robert Chen, CEO of Thompson Industries, requested a meeting with him. In his office, tomorrow morning, David's first thought was panic. Had he done something wrong? Was Mrs. Chen's gratitude not shared by her husband? Was he about to lose his job? But when he showed up the next morning, nervous and exhausted from working all night, what he found was something he never could have expected. Mr. Chen wasn't alone. Victoria was there too, and they both stood when David entered, which felt wrong. CEOs didn't stand for janitors, Mr. Williams, Robert Chen said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming. Please sit down. We have something very important to discuss with you. David shook his hand and sat, confused and worried. What he didn't know was that his life was about to change in ways he never imagined. And it all started with 15-minute breaks and paper cranes. David's hands were sweating as he sat in the expensive leather chair. Robert Chen's office was even more impressive in the daylight. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Awards lined the walls. Everything about this room screamed success and power, and here David was, in his old jacket and jeans, feeling completely out of place. Robert Chen sat behind his massive desk, but he didn't look like the confident CEO David had glimpsed during those late nights. He looked tired, older. His tie was loosened and there were dark circles under his eyes. Victoria sat in the chair next to David. She looked different too. She wore less makeup than before and her eyes were red like she'd been crying recently. But there was something else, a strength that hadn't been there in the shadows. Mr. Williams, Robert began, his voice rough with emotion. My wife told me everything. About how you've been spending your breaks with our daughter. About the homework help, the origami, the kindness you've shown her. David's heart pounded. Sir, I hope I didn't overstep any boundaries. I just saw a child who needed... Please. Robert held up his hand. Let me finish. He took a deep breath. For the past 3 years, I've been so consumed with saving this company from a hostile takeover that I forgot what I was supposed to be protecting. My family. Victoria reached over and took her husband's hand. The gesture surprised David. Robert continued, his voice breaking. I worked 16-hour days. I missed birthdays, school events, bedtime. I told myself I was doing it for them, providing for them. But the truth is I was hiding from my wife's pain because I didn't know how to help her, hiding from my daughter because being a present father felt harder than closing business deals. Robert, Victoria started, but he shook his head. No, I need to say this. He looked directly at David. While I was in this office, pretending to be important, my 7-year-old daughter was sitting alone in a hallway, waiting for someone to notice her. And you did. You, a man who had every reason to just do your job and go home to your own family, stopped and cared. David didn't know what to say. She reminded me of my own daughter. I just did what I hoped someone would do for Amy if she needed it. That's exactly my point, Robert said, leaning forward. You have empathy, compassion. You saw a child in pain and responded with kindness, not because you had to, but because you're a good person. You taught my daughter that adults can be trusted to show up. You taught her what consistency looks like, and you did it all while working a night shift to support your own family. Victoria spoke up, her voice soft but clear. The night I finally approached Lily, I had been watching you two for weeks. I saw how she lit up around you. I heard you tell her that her parents still loved her even though we were lost. You gave her hope when we had given her nothing but loneliness. You helped my wife find the courage to come back to our daughter, Robert added. Watching you be the parent we weren't, it woke something up in both of us. We realized we were losing her. We'd already lost so much time. David felt tears stinging his eyes. I'm glad Mrs. Chen came forward. Lily needs her mother. She needs both of you. We know that now, Victoria said. We've made big changes. Robert stepped back from day-to-day operations. He comes home at 6 o'clock now. We have family dinner every night. I'm continuing therapy. but I'm also showing up. I take Lily to school. I help with homework. I'm learning how to be her mother again. And it's hard, Robert admitted. Really hard. There are days when I want to check my phone during dinner, when I want to go back to the office. But then I remember my daughter sitting alone in that hallway and I know what matters more. That's wonderful, David said sincerely. Lily deserves that. Every kid deserves that. Robert and Victoria exchanged a look. Then Victoria nodded, encouraging her husband to continue. Mr. Williams, Robert said, we want to do something for you. To thank you for what you've done for our family. David immediately shook his head. No, sir, I don't want money or anything like that. I didn't do this for a reward. We know you didn't, Victoria said gently. That's exactly why we want to help. You mentioned your daughter wants to be a teacher? Yes, ma'am. Amy. She's a junior in high school now, already looking at colleges, but teaching programs are expensive and I've been trying to save, but what if you didn't have to worry about that? Robert interrupted. What if Amy's education was taken care of? Completely. David's mouth fell open. I don't understand. Victoria pulled out a folder from beside her chair. We've established a scholarship fund, the Amy Williams Educational Fund. It will cover your daughter's full tuition, room and board, and expenses for her entire college education, wherever she chooses to go. David couldn't breathe. He stared at them, certain he'd misheard. You can't, that's too much, I can't accept that. It's already done, Robert said firmly. The fund is established and active, but it's not just for Amy. We're setting it up to help 20 other children of single parents who work service jobs. People like you, who work hard and sacrifice for their kids but struggle to afford college. We wanted to honor what you did, Victoria explained. You showed up for a child who wasn't yours. You gave your time and kindness freely. This is our way of showing up for you and for others like you. David put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook as he cried. Years of working double shifts, of worrying about Amy's future, of wondering if he was enough, if he could give her the opportunities she deserved. It all came pouring out. Victoria moved her chair closer and gently touched his shoulder. You're a good father, David. You raised a daughter who wants to help others by becoming a teacher. That's because of you. Because of the example you set. David wiped his eyes. I don't know what to say. This is too much. It's not enough, Robert said. You gave us our daughter back. You gave us our family back. How do you put a price on that? They sat in silence for a moment. Then David asked, How is Lily? Is she doing okay? Victoria's face lit up. She's wonderful. She talks about you sometimes, about the things you taught her. She made me learn origami so we could do it together. Our living room is full of paper cranes now. She asks when she can see you again, Robert added. We told her you're busy with your own daughter, but that you think about her. I do, David said. All the time. She's a special kid. She is, Victoria agreed. And she's getting the childhood she deserves now. Because you reminded us what matters. A week later, David sat at the kitchen table with Amy, watching his daughter read the scholarship letter for the 10th time. She kept crying and laughing at the same time, overwhelmed with joy and disbelief. Dad, this is real? This is really real? It's real, sweetheart, David said, his own eyes wet. I can go to any college I want? I can become a teacher like I've always dreamed? Any college you want, David confirmed. David. Amy threw her arms around her father's neck. How did this happen? Why would someone do this for us? David thought about Lily, sitting alone in that hallway. He thought about the paper cranes and homework help and 15-minute breaks that changed everything. I helped someone when they needed it, David said simply, and they wanted to help us back. But Amy, the real lesson here isn't about the scholarship, as amazing as that is. Then what is it? Amy asked. It's that small acts of kindness matter more than we realize. When you see someone hurting, someone lonely, someone who needs help, you show up. You do what you can, even if it's just sitting with them for 15 minutes. Because you never know how much that might mean. You never know how far that kindness might spread. Amy hugged him tighter. You're the best dad in the world. "I'm just a dad who shows up," David said. "That's all any of us can do. Show up and care." 3 months later, David received an invitation to a small celebration. The Chen family wanted him to come to dinner at their home. He brought Amy with him. When Lily opened the door, she squealed with joy and hugged him tight. "David! And you must be Amy! I've heard so much about you." The dinner was warm and full of laughter. Not fancy or formal, just two families sharing a meal. Lily showed Amy her collection of paper cranes. Victoria talked to David about her journey back to health. Robert asked Amy about her college plans with genuine interest. As they said goodbye that evening, Lily handed David a drawing. It was a picture of all of them together with the words, "Thank you for showing up," written in crayon at the bottom. David folded it carefully and put it in his pocket, right next to the first drawing she'd ever given him. On the drive home, Amy was quiet for a while. Then she said, "Dad, I want to be like you when I'm a teacher. I want to be the person who shows up for kids who need someone." David smiled, reaching over to squeeze his daughter's hand. "You already are, sweetheart. You already are." Sometimes the smallest moments create the biggest changes. Sometimes showing up is all it takes to change a life, or two lives, or an entire family. And sometimes the person who gives the most ends up receiving more than they ever imagined. Not because they asked for it, but because kindness has a way of coming back around, like paper cranes floating on the wind, landing exactly where they're meant to be.